Hello, so welcome to another video for COMP3218, Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name's Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I am here with...
I'm Ted, I'm one of the demonstrators for this module.
And Adrian, one of the lecturers.
Brilliant, so we've got a couple of games to look at, but before we do that, Age, do you want to say a little bit about what we asked the students to do?
Absolutely. For our third coursework, the students were asked to build a small game in which they displayed at least one of the following innovations, which were adaptive difficulty, procedural generation, use of a novel game interface, or a real-world location-based element.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look. So I think our first one is a WebGL build. Let's see if we can get it going. I'm not quite sure what the name of it is, but hopefully it will tell us fairly soon. No, I still don't know what the name of it is. But right, I'm going to just see if I can I full screen this or not. Oh, there's a little button down the bottom. Yay, there we go. Right, okay. So this is Untitled Blue Planet game.
Right.
There we go. So play, shop. That's ambitious. Let's just go for the play. Aha, okay. So I have a... Aha, okay. So we have a... So it looks like it's a kind of like a, yeah.
Your classic twin stick
yeah.
bullet hell shooter.
Bullet hell shooter, not quite asteroids type game. Brilliant. All right.
So this is officially called the E.T.T.E shooter.
Okay.
All right.
E.T.T.E. I'm going to try and pick that up. Though it does. Ah. There we go. Oh, round finished. Shop. So I wonder if I can. So maybe the shop is. Here we go. Okay, so I can actually. So I've got 3 credits. That's not going to get me very far.
You can cheat up to the top.
cheat,
So
lads.
nicely, they realized that their module leads could not play many of these games, so they let us cheat.
Okay, I'm gonna carry on and see if I get any, and then we can cheat if we don't get very far with it. It's quite playable, I have to say.
It has a nice sound. I like the frog croaky, although I know it's not supposed to be a croaky frog.
So there should be some small pickups as well. So you picked up the green one to begin with. So you have this.
I've taken damage, so it's slowed down, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I did play this in the expo, and they said that was kind of deliberately there to sort of help get you out of trouble when trouble happened.
Yeah, the score multiplier is tied to the game's speed, I think, as well.
So I'm on a multiplier of 0.7 at the moment, so it's up in the... Right, where am I gone? Oh, round finished.
So
Score.
the multiplier, the multiplier will increase, which means the kill is worth more points.
Yep.
But it also affects the game speed, according to their course notes. And enemies will spawn faster.
Okay. So, and what is it using to figure out how well I'm doing? Does it
So they're combining player health, score, and difficulty to create that multiplier.
Okay. Oops. Oh, I lost. Select a leaderboard name. That'll do. Nope, accepting. Okay. Right. It's hard to tell. I think that's a button and that's a thing, but I'll be AAA. Okay. Ted, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
So, so they're looking at your health, and then based on that, they are...
Health, time, and... Hang on, let me pull it up again.
So that's how long it takes you to destroy things?
Sorry, health, score, and difficulty. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, there's a feedback here because health, score, and difficulty become the multiplier, but based on when a kill is made, like what the multiplier is, it'll become... So as the multiplier starts at 1 at the beginning of the level, some players just avoid destroying enemies until the multipliers increase, making the game harder for themselves. But it will increase their score faster. So there's an interesting feedback loop about what creates the multiplier and then what the multiplier feeds into.
Yes, I'm not quite sure. Oh, that's quite fun.
I do enjoy that they have so many different options for shooting and gameplay here.
And how does this? So the multiplier is used to determine the the kind of the difficulty of the game, if you like, through those measures.
Yes.
Does it also reflect on the score, or is that just indirectly?
Well, and unfortunately, given what they've written, I'm not entirely sure. So it says, so as the multiplier increases, the game gets harder as there are more enemies in the level.
Yeah.
But it increases their score faster than players who choose to.
So it's not quite clear whether that's just because there's more enemies or because
we're not entirely sure on that.
But they do still have that link, right? They've got
Yes.
a link between the difficulty and the score that's been generated.
Yes.
What do we think about the quality of this?
You know, I really like they have a shop and you get to choose.
That's quite cute.
You know, the style of bullets and
they've got cosmetic
speed
changes as well,
and-
like the ship, which is purely cosmetic, but it's just an extra fun little something for the player.
I really like that option. Because to be honest, if I was playing in this mode, I would really suck. But I really like the one Dave was playing in, where it was just this rainbow of bullets.
So yeah, they've got. I mean, it looks nice as well. It's very consistent.
Yes.
The look and feel is good. Good set of consistent assets.
They've used sound as well, which is always nice.
Yeah, and it plays nicely too.
Very responsive.
So I think this is quite a nice job. So let's think about the adaptive difficulty then in terms of what we're after. So we're really interested in whether first of all, whether the adaptive difficulty engine is working, and whether it's perceivable, and also about whether it's just making things generically more difficult or whether it's being responsive on different levels.
Yes.
So let's think about those.
So one of the things I'll add into this conversation is, according to their course notes, they are actually remembering the score in the previous level, and they changed the difficulty based on that previous level.
Yeah, I think it was a slightly different when you started after I played. I think.
Yes.
So I think we can just about perceive the difficulties in. You really are ramping this up, aren't you? All right. So I think you can perceive the change in difficulty.
Agreed.
I think kind of what a lot of people have done is they've been measuring. A lot of people have measured all sorts of factors.
Oh yes.
But a lot of them compile it down, if you like, to kind of a single difficulty measure.
Yes.
And that's a little bit of a shame because some of the finesse gets lost.
Yeah.
So are you particularly good against a particular style of ship? Are you are you fast versus slow versus there are different ways of being successful, right? So it's kind of a shame that it's not monitoring that and kind of perhaps trying to throw stuff in that's challenging you. But I think it seems to be quite a competent job. And in terms of meaningfulness, it's linked. It looks indirectly, but it is linked to the score, and it is entirely appropriate for this type of shooter where you want to get up to a point quite quickly, where they're being challenged. Right?
Yes.
And I don't feel punished for being good at the game.
No, and that is that's a good way of putting it actually, because that is quite a common problem. Although you're also not being punished because you have millions of points.
Cheated.
Yeah. So I think I'd have liked to have seen a little bit more finesse in how the difficulty was adjusted. But other than that, I think this is a nice piece. So thinking about how the different things interact, so it also looked to me that the stuff in the shop, did it get less expensive at one point? Did they adjust the prices of things?
Oh, I did not see that as part of
I didn't notice that either. Is there anything about that in the game notes?
I didn't see anything. Let me see.
I might be mistaken, but I thought it looked to me like that changed. Because again, one of the things you have to be very careful of is how these different factors interact. But I have to say, you've ramped up your abilities, and they are sending some quite serious enemies after you, right?
I like the classic 3-letter only score.
Yeah. I'm very sorry. I don't see anything in here about whether the shop increases or decreases prices.
So I must remember, because I think when I very first started playing it, I only had one shop, right? So now I've got two. That's sideswiping.
So the blue weapon shoots more, but it shoots forward, and this one is harder to aim, but it shoots 2 sideways.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So again, I think one of the things we've said on a couple of occasions is that it's quite hard to make something that's playable, and this is very playable.
It is.
I thought when I first did this, these were 6, but that's what they were when you were playing. So maybe it's not. There we go. And also there are even things like the way that the bullets travel, the way that it looks very satisfying.
Yes.
And that stuff matters a lot for this type of game. Although it's beginning to get a bit tiring that I can't shoot straight. I'd like to be able to just shoot something. Oh, see, I end up running into something because I'm firing either side of it.
Yeah, it doesn't drop the pickups very often.
But that might be because you were doing quite well, so I'm still on my 1.2.
Oh, you finished your round. Yes.
What have I got? I've got 13 credits.
You've got the green weapon, so you want to upgrade there.
Yeah, okay. So let's try that and see what happens. Oh yeah. I still can't shoot straight, but yeah. So I think in summary, it's relatively straightforward and simple, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think that would be our advice to people doing this kind of quick development. And it's very well put together. It's got those nice little touches, like when you do take damage, you slow down. It's very easy to see what's going on.
At the end, the choice of adaptive difficulty, it helps in the gameplay, right?
Yes.
It's not that it does not hinder, and it's not. It actually does help.
Okay, so yeah, it's a testament I actually do want to carry on playing. Right. So I can kind of really. Also, it's also a testament to the fact I'm enjoying playing it.
Yes,
I actually
that we are just.
I don't enjoy these type of games. But yeah, very nice.
So, but perhaps we should drag you away from it and
let's move on.
Move on to the next.
So here's our next game. Again, I'm waiting for the name to come up. Around the World. Okay, let's full screen it. So then, shall I start this one? Play. Okay, oh, here we go. I can use WAS to move. So up and down, jump. The environment seems safe. The next environment may not be. So I had to sort this in the expo. So I quite like so it's how far you've gone is a measure of your success. So that's the red line. So as I push that forward, I can collect these power-ups. That was quite a subtle hint as to what was going on. So basically, the idea is, and I should be having, so I've got these abilities down the bottom. So as I enter into these different environments, see my health is going down. So this, I think, I need like
You need. In this one, you need bug spray.
Bug
for this
spray.
one.
I don't have any bug spray.
No.
So let's leg for it, right? And then what's this one?
So
I'm still dying.
Swimming?
Oh,
Yes,
I'm swimming. So have I got I've got 5. Is that my? Oops. So did I activate 5? There we go. So I didn't activate. I thought I did. So basically, the idea is you pick up these things in the environment, and then that help you get through, and then you're faced with this conundrum of, do I just race through the environment? So I've got bug spray now, so that's 3.
And does
have I got
that
any health?
slow the decrease of your health, or does it increase your health?
It slows it.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go backwards because
it looked like your health also just jumped back up.
I used it. So number 1 is a health potion, and that's what I used to just give myself an increase.
Okay.
You have a go. So,
so one of the interesting things that so they've used procedural generation to generate what goes where and which environments are coming up next, right?
Nice.
And so yes, I think it's actually nicely done in that. So this tutorial is kind of they always put these little things here, but they change what pieces go on, where they put the saws, and then what environment comes up next, and what extra gathering pieces. The only problem that I actually have on this one is you are not guaranteed, or the algorithm they chose to do it, you're not guaranteed to at least have a shot at something you could use next. You might choose to ignore it, but that agency is not necessarily with the player because it could not exist in the
So in terms, so basically in terms of the procedural generation, it's selecting one of these environments.
Yep.
It's building these platforms.
Yes. Populating some magical items in there.
And that seems to be working.
Yes,
so we're getting very playable levels. Mm-hmm. But your point is that they're not linking that up with the production of the items? So
So the items are randomly populated in there, and so it could be, in fact, you experienced it your first time. You can hit an environment in which it is absolutely, like, you don't even have the option of having seen that one of those magical items that will help. In which case, you only have the choice to run as fast as you can. Or, I guess you do still have some agency because you could choose to run faster, collect some more, but...
I mean, that first environment, I should have just legged it.
Right.
But I think the problem there is it was the first time we played. Since the expo. And although there's a little bit at the beginning, so they remembered to tell you how to move, which is good.
Which is very
good. They give you a hint.
Yes.
I do wonder whether actually something a bit more explicit to start with would work. But I mean, in terms of the quality here,
it's very nice.
It looks really nice, and I think the little icons for the various bits, they work really well. I think it's a relatively simple premise and game, but it has enough complexity to demonstrate some of the things that they're talking about and that they want to do.
So far we've only actually talked
about its quality.
Yeah. So we've also only talked about the procedural generation. They also claim they've got some adaptive difficulty built into this game.
Okay, so is that based on?
It says that the player's score is directly linked to the difficulty of the game. As the score increases, the player begins taking a higher amount of damage.
Oh, okay.
Platforms also get smaller as the player's score increases to make collecting items more difficult, thereby increasing the difficulty.
That's an interesting one as to whether that is actually adaptive difficulty,
or is it just damage?
Because what they're doing is they have an input to their procedural generation, so it's making the game linearly harder as you progress.
They are, yes.
Which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But it's slightly different than the kind of adaptive difficulty where the game is responding to your play and your play style.
Yes.
I suppose. What am I supposed to be doing here? Cold. What's cold?
I don't know what cold is supposed to help.
I think 4 is the hot water bottle.
There we go. Have I got one? Yeah.
It's hard to know what you could do with this to make it adaptive difficulty because the environments, with the exception of the water, are all quite similar. So they require the same sort of skills.
I'm not sure that it needs it. I think a linear difficulty where it's based purely on how far you're getting is absolutely fine. Right, here we go, bug spray. So I think, they also, they do stack. I remember them saying they stack, so I've activated 2. What's mine now? Cold, so 4.
Use some potions as well.
So it's bug spray again, 3. Are they going to give me some respite at some point?
No, you just go until you're dead.
You get the checkpoints.
Do I get like a... Yeah, I wonder if I'm
similar
getting
to the first area.
Kind of temperate,
appear as well.
Oh, right.
A temperate zone. Yeah, I was kind of expecting to see a temperate zone, but I really took damage then. 5. There we go.
So, do we think that their use of procedural generation has helped the game? Not damage the game or hurt the game?
Well, I think it's it's appropriate for this type of game.
Yeah.
I think it kind of I think we've said in some of the other videos that replayability is kind of the weakest argument for this, but for certain types of games it absolutely works, and this is one of them. I think because it's a how far you've got, doing more than that kind of linear stuff would have been very challenging. So I think they've made the right decision to use the procedural generation to just increase the difficulty at a steady rate. So yeah, I think it's appropriate and I think it works.
Yeah.
Could they have done a bit more with it? Is an interesting one.
Like you say, linking the items so that you
Yeah,
I think
guaranteed
linking it
to-
so that you can hit an environment.
yeah, a little bit more attention to the relationship between some of these things, maybe. But I think they've done a very nice job. And like I said, although it's a relatively simple premise, it has just enough complexity to make the procedural generation interesting, to
Yeah.
make the gameplay interesting. Yeah, I think they've done a nice job with it.
Yeah, it's a fun concept. Oh, frozen.
So the things that are changing are presumably that obviously the procedure generating the layout. But I mean, that seems to be working. So here there's no kind of dead ends of the mines. There's something clearly going on to make it work. The same with the platforms. I don't think I've seen. Well, actually, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't think I've seen platforms you can't get to, but perhaps just as importantly, if there are, then I can just ignore them and run on anyway because of the way that they've designed the game.
Yes.
So that's kind of so that looks like a platform you can't physically get to. I think so. Some of the other things. So there are interesting sets or configurations of platforms. So ones, for example, where you go up and then have to go backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to make a choice about.
So you have to make a choice, and I don't think, from the sounds of it, they've included the identification of those things into their procedural generation.
I don't believe they have.
And if they had, they would make sure that there was always a significant reward for doing that, and therefore you would make a choice. So I think the procedural generation could be a little bit more complex, but
maybe identifying the items that the player lacks and saying, okay, if you go back for this,
you can then get the thing that you need.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking at the that
how to make it that
we're
next
splitting
step,
hairs a little bit, right? We're kind of we're finding faults. I mean, in general, I think it looks like it's done a really nice job.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get.
Yeah, me too.
What's your score?
I can't remember. Oh, it's thousands. I think the choice to make it always go down even when you've activated the sprays is kind of interesting. It does make sense.
Okay, the platforms are really small now. I've only just noticed.
Yeah, they've gone
Yeah,
a lot smaller.
you've got a long way, so now it's got quite tough.
Oh, what just happened?
You ran out of
So health just ticked down.
Ah. Oh well.
All right.
High score. Well, that was the high score.
Very well done.
So that's why your itty bitty platform. So good. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. So the next game I think is called Fitness Command.
That's right.
And we're running it as a Mac application. And I have a feeling this is the first game we've looked at which is not a proc gen, right? It's or an adaptive difficulty. It's a location.
It is a location-based game, yes.
Tutorial. Ballistic missiles are raining down on your home. It's the last line of defense. It's missile command. You must keep at least 2 civilian dwellings standing to have a chance to survive the nuclear winter. Jolly. Okay. Using your personal explosive elimination device, PED, you must travel to structures where incoming missiles have been detected and personally eliminate them explosively. Okay. So I need to get to where the missiles are coming, and then I will have some other way of doing it. So I've got some other missile-y things. Oh, okay, so I've got like a missile silo or missile system that will automatically shoot down missiles that come into range.
So while I appreciate that there is some tutorial, having a lot of text is not a tutorial. In fact, I didn't even read any of that because I was bored.
No, that was a bit too much, wasn't it? It would have been nice to have it, but at least it's there.
Yes, it's there.
So I need to protect civilian buildings. I can place turrets. That's my button to deploy them. I can, anti-radar buildings. Okay, armory buildings. Let's see what happens when we play. So, so it has generated a map. So I've got. So this is the university campus.
It is.
Roughly, which is good.
Is that Zeppelin back?
Do you see that arrow?
So there's an arrow down here, which I'm guessing means that there's an incoming missile. Here we go. It's coming in 2 minutes. So I think I have a choice. I can either deploy a turret, because I've got one, that will protect this whole area, or I can just press heart and
Evacuate
get rid
people.
of it. So I'll press that. So it's got rid of it. Civilians left. I've got 9 civilian buildings left. Okay, so now I have to wait for another missile to come in. It's worth saying it's a location-based game, but obviously we're not on location, so we are clearly faking things. So that's some ammo. I'm not quite sure what these ammo buildings do.
No.
They kind of generate me turrets or something. So we're faking location.
Although this game does work on an Android, and you can walk around with your phone out.
Which is good. So the building we're actually in is kind of here.
Go left,
and it
yeah.
appears to be missing.
Yeah.
I still don't think another one's appeared.
You go up and left, you've got a missile come in.
Sorry, you're right. There you go. And this is the Electronics and Computer Science building, so these are worth defending.
We should totally use
turret.
our turret
so
there.
I think a turret here, that will sort it out. And it will shoot down 2 missiles. Where I was going with that was that I am absolutely racing around this map, and in practice there is no way. I think you'd have to be Usain Bolt to get down this street.
Yes, and in fact, actually during the expo, the designers talked about this, and when they were actually playing in I am walking around mode, they actually decreased the time between things because they couldn't physically run.
So if you were walking relatively fast, my guess would be you might be going about this speed, and that would be quite quick.
Yes,
I think these are big buildings we're talking about here. And also, of course, in this mode, you can walk through buildings and do all that kind of stuff, which you can't do when you're actually out and about. So I think that might explain why we've got these big gaps between the missiles coming in.
Yes. Yes.
Even if they have tweaked it, it's kind of clearly not quite there. I like the idea of this. I quite like the idea of a location-based missile command as a way of going around.
I do too. And in fact, what they were talking about is, as you play, you have to kind of think, because I can only walk so far.
Yeah.
This is going to be the area that I protect and keep my 2 buildings in, and I will just let the other be sacrificed. And you have to make these strategic choices.
And it also makes those turrets more interesting because there's no expense to me as using it on this mock-up location.
Yes.
There's no expense to me in dashing across campus, but actually leaving a turret somewhere essentially means I don't have to go back. And I get a bit more of a rest, which I think is quite useful.
Yes. So one of the things I will say and we kind of glossed on this before, is I don't understand some of the features in this game, so I have to protect. Part of this is probably because even though I've played this twice now, did not read the instructions either time. So again, I can press a turret down. Now, why did I get another turret here? What happened?
Is that to do with the ammunition buildings?
I think the ammunitions buildings are generating them, but that feedback's not clear.
So exactly, and so we pushed a heart earlier.
Yeah.
Did we evacuate some citizens, and that's why we're all happy? But the buildings destroyed.
I think we just deployed something which just stopped the missile. So we just kind of.
Okay, so but we had to be there to do it.
We had to be there to do it.
Okay,
so I think that's the way it's working.
There are a few things, and I will honestly admit that part of this could have been explained if I had actually read it, but
wandering off. So I'm not entirely these radar buildings.
Yeah, there's radar and anti-radar.
That's right, and that is an anti-radar.
So I don't really know what they do.
But what does it do exactly?
Yeah, introducing one of these buildings at a time would have been nice.
Yeah, to show us exactly. Yeah. Now that's harder to do if we are actually walking around with a mobile device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also think. I'm wandering around to just explore the map at the moment, but I think it is important to give people moments of respite and to catch their breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, look, we're in the Flatters estate. That's interesting. So here we go. People's homes.
Go left. There's something coming in.
So this is one here. I almost didn't notice.
You've got 10 seconds.
I think I might have 1 minute and about 10 seconds. There we go. Oh, did that work? Or did it not work? That didn't work. Why didn't my heart work?
There we go.
So I think that, first of all, I think they deserve some credit for getting the map going and getting all that going. And
they said in the expo that it was a nightmare. Yeah,
I can imagine. So I think just in terms of getting a real map from a real source in, I think that well done. That's impressive.
Definitely one of the more ambitious things to go for.
Yeah.
In this particular expo.
It would have been nice, I think, to think a little bit more about the implications of actually being on the ground. To a certain extent, they've done that with the turrets. But I think that in practice you would need more downtime, and it might be nice to have things to do in that downtime.
Yes.
So maybe walk to a building where I can get a turret, or kind of have some other kind of activities that
Maybe
would
they can
manage the
put
process.
the turrets at the coffee shops. The coffee shops can buy turret time so that
So we've got microtransactions.
There we go. So we get some. We can build some advertisements into the game.
So let's talk about it. So in terms of quality, I think the look and feel is consistent. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but I don't have a problem with that.
Agreed.
After looking at the Android implementation, it doesn't look quite the same because the building's rendered properly and you can see the map.
And,
So
and I suppose we've got these two massive buttons showing here on the Android,
which doesn't happen.
It makes a lot more sense on the. Yeah, that's true.
The only quality thing that really is bugging me at this point is, like, what is the building that had the ammunition in it with those little missiles in it?
Yeah.
Like, how do I interact with it?
So I
think
it's feedback, isn't it?
Yeah, feedback.
It's when stuff happens, when we get a new thing. It would be nice to so maybe if we had to collect them, or we had to do something to activate them, or some link when we got a turret to show that we've got it from the building.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to your give us something to do in our downtime. So we know a missile's coming in, we have to go get a thing and
hang out in the students' union over here.
Yeah, with the lack of a proper tutorial, it's hard to know if certain buildings are worth prioritising over others. And we know, or we assume that the ammunition provides turrets, but I'm sure that the civilian buildings would serve a different purpose to the radar buildings.
I also think there's some interesting stuff that I don't know whether if you're playing it on the Android version, in real location, it might be different, but because there's only one thing appearing at once, we're not getting any kind of routing challenges. Whereas if there were 3 or 4 missiles falling,
you'd have to choose which way to run.
We'd have to think, and I might think, right, I'll sacrifice that building in order to take this route to enable me to make this. And then that becomes part of the game is making those route decisions.
Yeah. I mean, that was originally part of the choice, but because of the nature of the game, it's so difficult to test.
Yeah.
You'd be exhausted after an afternoon of testing this game.
I will say this would actually be interesting as a multiplayer game, right? That you as a team go running around a location, and because then your map gets spread out further, you have to coordinate amongst people to.
So I don't think we'd be suggesting that's what we'd expect to do. But
but I'm so excited by this game. I want to see the next version.
But you are right. Adding some kind of level of social coordination as a bit of a dynamic in there, I think would be really, really nice. Yeah. Okay, so I think we
did it fulfill the brief? Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, clearly it's a location-based game, and it works, and they're bringing all that factors in. I think it's working really nicely. It might have been nice to do something. I'm not quite sure how they're picking civilian buildings and that kind of stuff. Maybe to pick up on some more real-life data would have been, and link that in somehow would have been nice. But again, I think we're being a bit picky.
Time constraints.
And in terms of meaningfulness, I think is this it's using distance and it's make those choices. I think they could have made more with the design, like I said, to make you think about routes, and to make routes and pacing and make those kind of difficult decisions. It feels to me like it's a bit too raw at the moment. It's a bit too like, do this mad dash over here.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said, I think if there were multiple things coming on at once, if I was having to make kind of sacrifices in order to basically, I think what I'm trying to say is I don't feel I'm making a lot of meaningful choice. Something appears, I run hell for leather for it, and I have to stop it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's in that case, it's what's that horrible fitness thing they do with the beeps? So you've got to run from end to end.
Oh, the bleep test.
The bleep test, right? it feels like a digital bleep test. Whereas I think they could have had a bit more richness in the design and used the location a bit more imaginatively than they have. But I do think that what they have done is still a reasonable and effective use of the location.
I agree. Shall we move on to the next game?
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, good job.
And for this, we will need our microphone.
So this is another Mac application for this reason, because it needs the mic. So this is going to be interesting for a Let's Play, right? Because I think, is this one where we have to whistle?
Yes, it is.
So basically your video for the next 20 minutes is us whistling annoyingly into the microphone. All right, sorry about that. Adjust the threshold until the clock below responds to just your whistling. All right. Well, it appeared.
I would go a little higher.
Okay. Feels quite piercing, but
Yeah, sorry.
Do you
about
not
that.
want the
Let's
threshold
go-
lower? So it picks it up easier.
I don't know. It's hard to know. Let's try that.
Much better.
Perfect G.
There you go. How to play. Whistle the 12 notes to change the direction of the white player sphere.
Oh, wow.
Try to collect all of the green spheres while avoiding the red ones. Good luck. I think we
We're
might
gonna
need it. All right. Okay. Play. Let's have a go. So I had a brief go at this in the.
Yes.
So okay. So the sphere's down the bottom. So
There it goes. Now, here is my first thing of feedback on this game is we're really good at changing pitch while whistling.
yeah, I'm doing it now. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, you went up, and while you went up that, you were thinking about going up. Whereas many of us are not so good at notes.
So I'm completely amusical.
Yes. Yes.
So I would have no idea what one of these notes was, which is a bit unfortunate for this test.
Yes.
So I'm trying. So I think what I was. So when I played this, what I really wanted to happen is I wanted to have there to be some kind of sensible connection between the noise I was making.
I can make.
So so louder, quieter, higher
Yes.
and lower.
Yes.
So it's almost like what I want is to be up and to be down.
Absolutely.
And quiet and loud to be left and right
Right.
or something. And then I'd feel like I was able to do it.
Agreed.
Whereas because it's the notes, I still don't have a clue what I'm up to here.
Absolutely.
Is it either of you particularly?
I played piano in year 3.
So-
I was in the choir in year 5, so...
So one of the arguments from what was just stated there, 'cause I do it. Well, I will say I agree. I want pitch to go up and down and volume right and left. The only thing, like the good
Keep
part
talking.
of this game would be if you think about. I mean, I was forced to play violin, and unlike a piano, right, you have to actually change your fingering on the board to produce the appropriate note. And because I am amusical, that was an impossible task because I couldn't hear when my finger was in the wrong place. So a game like this would be actually I shouldn't have said it. A game like this would actually be really interesting if it could help you learn, right, as an educational type game, to actually make this poor violin student care about whether or not they were doing it properly.
So I still have no idea how the noises I'm making correlate with the position on the dial.
It's difficult because C is not the opposite of F sharp, and that's
if you say so.
Well, because there is no opposite of F sharp, and yet that's the opposite direction.
So I mean, am I doing notes here? Am I going? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's presented on a dial, which isn't really how most people would look at music. Like if you look at a scale or a piano,
it's just a linear progression.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if this was like a linear scale, you wouldn't really look at the notes. You would just look at pitch or volume, then you could. You up and down.
So I think that's probably enough of my piercing whistling. Does everyone else have a go at whistling?
We could actually even just talk at this. It is responding to my voice very well.
It looks like some sort of like reinforcement learning agent that's randomly trying parts.
I'm presuming from that neither of you want to whistle.
Oh no!
I might try in a second, but I like the idea that you could design a level for someone who was good at this game, and they would whistle a song. And it would complete it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love, like, Mary had a little lamb and it actually collected all the balls?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of, it needs a sort of...
Yeah. Okay, so my normal whistle is at a B.
good.
Mm.
So maybe what we should be doing is each of us should test our whistle
Okay.
and see where we
See if
are,
we can group game this.
and
Okay.
then we just repeat that, right?
Yep.
So yours is a B.
Mine's B.
Mine's a
G.
G.
Okay, ready?
We're over there.
Ian, okay.
So we need to. That's unfortunate because no one's up there. Oh yeah, it's good.
Oh, I
That is you. That is you. Oh,
Whoa!
hey,
we did it.
see, that's interesting. So that kind of worked.
How are we going to avoid the red balls?
Where's the red ball?
They'll come in one of the later levels.
Goodness. Here, I'll do it. Oh, that's still up.
It's difficult because you can do a high F and then you can do a low F and they're the same direction.
They're exactly the same.
Whatever an F is, yeah, that's fine.
But I think actually a tutorial of Mary Had a Little Lamb where this gets you like that would be awesome.
Or that's kind of helpful. I get captured by space aliens.
So quality-wise,
so this is kind of a difficult one because it is really quite hard to control.
it is very hard to control.
They did sort of promise me in the expo that there were certainly people who could control it, but I've not seen anyone successfully control it. So I mean, I think in terms of just as a little game, I think it's absolutely fine. You can kind of you're moving around, you're collecting the pieces. It sounds like there are bits that we haven't seen. If there's other things that come in after you.
Yeah.
I think in terms of that quality, it's fine. And also, it had the menu screen. It told us what to expect. It would have been nice to have some kind of whistling based tutorial. I think that would have been quite useful. Even if it was a case of kind of just whistle to knock these cans off a wall or something, something very simple, whistle to hit these things. I think the interesting thing becomes in the implementation bit. It's certainly a unique interface and a good way of doing it. I'm worried that it's just a bit too chaotic.
Yeah.
They've got something which is a fairly precision-based control and a very, very inaccurate mode of. I mean, if they had a game which was, you're moving around in a more conventional way, and then your whistle is some other way of interacting with the environment. It's kind of like the way in which you capture an enemy or the way in which you do something. That maybe would have been more effective than having this very fine control. And I think if you were going to do fine control, then why not build it around the idea of a scale and about doing things across a scale, a linear scale, rather than this radial approach.
Yeah, and they could have maybe linked that into because there's probably some procedural generation as well for the levels.
Right.
And if you do something like a pentatonic scale, so you pick a scale and you choose whichever 5 notes from it. I can't remember. It's been a long time.
I remembered pentatonic.
And then basically, if you play any of those 5 notes in any random order, it sounds like an actual song.
Yes.
And so you could use something like that to generate a level where you should be whistling in this sort of key. And
it just feels to me that you'd be better off having little tunes that you have to sing, you have to whistle, in order to get through doors, in order to activate things, in order to. And this fine-grained control just doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
So while I admire them for trying it, and I think they ought to get a lot of credit for actually measuring it and getting it working and breezing it in.
Yes.
I think where they then applied that within the game, I think is probably lost a lot, and the design could have been
if we had
more
a keyboard or something, that would be fun to see how a pianist could play the game.
Yeah, actually have some kind of app which would generate the notes for us. In terms, so I mean that kind of is straying between the two of them. So in terms of quality, I think we said it's nice enough. It's working. It's effective. In terms of the innovation and have they done an innovation, they've certainly implemented it. It's definitely here. I would say it's quite difficult to use, and I'm wondering whether they could do a bit more to actually help you. in terms of kind of maybe it should be about moving a dial rather than just appearing on the dial or something.
Yeah.
That would make it a bit smoother.
Yeah.
But I think the real issue is about how you make it relevant. So it's really the third criteria, the meaningfulness.
Yeah.
And while it's interesting, it's a really interesting toy. I think to really integrate it into and make it a game, it probably has to be brought into the design in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
So here's a question. Given that, and I agree completely, if we change this to pitch up and down, volume side to side, does it work better in a maze? Or are we still faced
better, but not
still
necessarily
not
there?
Yeah, it's the fine control thing, isn't it?
It is.
It feels to me like they should have probably built it around patterns, or like around those, like the Close Encounters thing, like a little tune or a tiny piece or something where you kind of it plays it to you and you have to repeat that at certain points to get through, or you use it in particular ways, and that feels like a more natural way to incorporate it. I would be very interested to see someone who was more musical to see whether they could. You're doing a reasonable job here representing us, but whether they would have more ability with it. I said that the developers did promise me that there were people who could actually play it. But unfortunately, when the expo, we were in quite a noisy room and it was difficult for them to demo it to themselves. So I really admire what they've tried to do, and I think the implementation bit of it works well. I think where it falls down is in the design. It's the integration of this control mechanism in the design. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on? Mm-hmm. So in fact, was that our last game?
Oh, this was our last game for the batch.
So that's our last one for this video. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back shortly with another video. Thank you.